Welcome back again. I am so excited to be here again with Cheryl, Miss the fabulous Miss Beck, and you have like everyone loves you everywhere you go. It is so awesome. You deserve all the love, making up for lots of lost time, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so I last time we chatted, we talked about taking on some more drawings because I'm just blown away. There's the artist in me that there's so much depth in these simple drawings and there's such great stories. But before we get to that, I want to cover a couple of things. One, I would love for you to share yet again your take on being able to laugh at some of these things that are so horrifying.
Yes, it does tend to traumatize a lot of people. Basically, I escaped from my family, the Luciferian bloodline family, 42 years ago. And I also went through trauma recovery therapy and integration over 25 years ago. And that was 3 years intensive outpatient therapy. I'm just going to add in here, there was no hypnosis. A lot of people say, well, the therapist hypnotized you to remember these kind of horrible things. That's not the case. My memories came back in a flood.
Right.
And so laughing at what happened or laughing about the mindsets, especially their mindsets behind some of the things, it's just funny now. And it's a testament to my complete healing and
Yes.
that God gave me the victory. So I hope it doesn't stress people out when we laugh, because we will laugh because we do have the victory.
Yes, and it is. Thank you for putting it so beautifully. And I also would like to add, because I have a different perspective. You're coming from all the cuts, you got all the cuts, and I'm coming from a place of awe. I too have healed from a lot of my own things. And one of the things I do is I hold space for people to be able to express themselves in ways, whatever ways they would like to. But I have to share with you, I get anywhere from 2 to 5 letters a week right now from women who have overcome similar things, not necessarily always bloodline or not necessarily, in certain, the same exact things as you and Jesse, their own little twists on it, but still from the system. And you're giving people validation in a very, very healthy way, which is exactly what they needed. And so now they're wanting to come out with their stories. They had been holding their stories in. They're in, their late 50s, early 60s. They've never been able to be free from this. And they're choosing, me specifically, they're writing me. So of course they're choosing me as a place to come out and to share this. And had it not been for you and Jesse sharing your stories, and from, like you said, a place of absolute, um, I don't even know the word. You said it so beautifully, but to do it from a very healthy place. Not that you don't know the horrors, just that you have overcome them completely to the point where you can speak so frankly about them and knock a lot of other people off center. So anyway, I just wanted to share that and to thank you because we have a lady that's going to come on tomorrow, actually, who has never spoke about her story before, and she probably wouldn't have had it not been for you and Jesse. So thank you, Cheryl.
Oh, wow. That warms my heart. It makes it all worth it.
Yeah, I mean, she's 65 years old and she'll be telling her story for the first time publicly tomorrow. So
Uh-huh.
it's really really cool. And then also, I just wanted to thank you for coming on with Michael Jaco and I. If anyone hasn't had a chance to see it, it's on Rumble, and his name on Rumble is Michael J 5623. and it was probably, last Saturday, so about a week ago. But she's got a lot of views on there, and there was a lot of stuff that she didn't cover the last time on mine. It's every time you and Jesse speak, it's always different, and there's always really amazing nuggets of absolute gold that you guys have alchemized for us. So thank you. All right, so let's get into some of your photographs that you sent today. Did you want to go in the order that you sent them to me, or the opposite order? Doesn't matter.
We can go in the order I sent them to you.
Okay. All right. So I think I have it correct because I tried to lay them out here, but I've got to get my share screen up. And now that we are shared, we'll get rolling on this. Okay. So this bring us up to date as to where these came from. First of all, these are recovery photos.
Yes, so these are my altars that are drawing what happened to them.
Oh,
So this is a coloring of the high priest in front of the pentagram fire.
wow. That is amazing. And so how old were you when you did this? Like, were you in your 30s or
Yeah,
40s?
when did I start recovering? um,
Well, it says 1997, it looks like.
right, so I'd be 36.
Okay. All right. And so I'm just going to give you the floor, and when you're done, let me know, and then I'll switch to another slide.
Okay, so this basically is a high priest standing in front of the fire on the pentagram. I just had to draw it out. They're usually in a robe and naked underneath, and I just had to draw it out. And my therapist, I call him Dr. John, and so I had to draw things and show Dr. John what I was talking about because it was little people speaking to him. So
Yeah, and so this is interesting to me because I'd recently talked to somebody that goes into people's houses on a regular basis. They own an HVAC company, and they said that there'd been several houses that they've gone into where pentagrams are drawn on the floor. Is there like an actual fire in the very center of it? Is the whole thing on fire? Is it like, do you see what I'm asking?
usually there's leftovers. They do the ritual in a circle around the pentagram, and so people can be, I should say, children can be raped there, and so they have a fire in that circle at the end to leave no evidence of whatever might be left there, clothing remnants or things like that.
Wow, isn't that
If you
just
leave evidence, it's punishable by death.
wow. Yeah. And so this kind of makes me want to rewind just a little bit because, one of the reasons why you are so amazing is because of your faith in Christ. And I remember you saying that you were really young when you had that experience. Can you share with us how you were able to hold on to that faith, even though it was being twisted and defiled specifically? Like here's God, but here's how bad God is, how you were able to hold on.
I credit that to our little spirit within us. I was introduced to Jesus at age 2 when we joined the Lutheran church that was the cover for the Bloodline family. And that went from my little understanding down into my heart and down into my spirit, where I just believed that Jesus loved me and he died for me. And I would get to go to heaven if I believed in him. And that sounded very good already at 2 years old, but somebody that loved me even better. And so we would have Sunday school in the morning, at on Sunday mornings at the church, and we learn scripture and sing Jesus loves me, and the usual things you do in Sunday school. And then in the afternoon, evening, we'd have Satan school, where they would take what we were taught in the morning and twist it all up and torture us to deny Jesus. And I just would not do it. You could almost say I had a death wish, but I had a heaven wish,
I love that.
I I just would not. It's like, go ahead and kill me. Just get it over with, because you're going to do it anyways. I always knew they were going to kill me because they told me so. So um,
Well, I'm really
I
happy
just,
that your heaven wish lasted so long. That's a
well,
very good.
thank you.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's awesome. And so one of the times we spoke, the very first time, you told me you separated God and Jesus also.
uh-huh.
So can you share people with that
Yeah,
concept?
Jesus was my savior. He was my best friend. He loved me. He died for me. The Holy Spirit was inside of me and was the witness to that. But God the Father was a judge who had a huge gavel that just wanted to whack me over the head with the gavel at every turn. And they tell people, fathers are so important because your idea of God the Father comes from your father.
Oh
And my
yeah.
father used to just every time he walked past me, hit me on the head, just smack my head. And when my mom wasn't, in the same room. So I was always getting smacked on the head. So I literally, instead of a triune God and understanding that they are the same, I split them into multiple personalities. And my
And
therapist,
two of
who
them you
was a
could trust in
Christian,
what you put in.
yeah, my therapist, who was a Christian, said, Cheryl, God doesn't have dissociative identity disorder. He's not. God is Jesus, is the Holy Spirit. If you've seen one, you've seen them all. But it's taken me conscious work to change that whole lie inside of me and replace it with God is a loving Father. He formed
Hallelujah.
he
And
formed me perfectly in my mother's womb.
yes.
Yes, he allowed me to go through things, but he's also a God of redemption and restoration and healing. And he built into the children or people the ability to dissociate so we could handle it when we were ready for it later in life.
Yes.
That is his design. That's the way it is. Now, I have to tell you, I spent 6 months having the Lieutenant Dan in the crow's nest. If you remember the movie Forrest Gump, where he went up in the storm in the crow's nest of the ship that they had, and decided to yell at God through the storm and have God strike him down. Well, I did that for 6 months. I just yelled and screamed and cussed him out and just on and on and on for 6 months. And then it was like all out. And I
Yeah.
had nothing left to yell at him about. And I came to this point where it was nevertheless not my will but yours be done. And this peace washed over me
Oh,
and I was healed. I was past it.
I love it. I love it. Looking back at this, going back to it's interesting too. I don't know if you did this on purpose or not, but it seems as though you have, the two, they're not quite the Star of David, but it's like they're the male and the female. And then also the top one looks like, the pyramid and it even has that like end cap. I guess that's like his hat or something.
Yeah. You will see a lot of diamond shapes in my drawings. It's a
Okay.
repetitive thing that I do. I didn't do it on purpose that I know of.
Yeah, yeah, it's like kind of
So
subconscious. It's fascinating. And it's also interesting that, that is what they say. A lot of the Illuminati stuff is based on all of the different shapes, in particular that pyramid with that end cap, which is fascinating. And then here's the next one. And this is Tina the nurse doll.
okay, so this is an altar I created at age 4 because all the little kids around me were hurting and beat up, and I wanted to take care of them. Once you've learned how to create an altar, you can create your own system too to battle them. I did that. I created a whole system to combat what they were trying to do against my little persons inside. And so
Right.
I would fake them out with my counterfeit system that was identical to theirs. Anyhow, so this is using coloring books for your little ones is great therapy. And you find pictures like this where, aha, this is Tina. This is what I had fixed in my mind. Tina, the nurse dolly that can help the other children.
It's
So
beautiful. And what's interesting is there's, like you said, there's this level of health that comes from disassociating. I'm curious because you might know, and I don't know. There's a piece of you that is still Tina, the nurse, caring for people, or is it truly just Cheryl now that cares for the people? Do you see what I'm asking?
yeah, all the pieces are me in different expressions.
Yeah.
Therefore, I was a perfect little mommy from the time I was born. I had my baby dolls and they had high chairs and bottles, and that's all I wanted ever was baby dolls and the things to pretend to be a mommy. That's what I love to do. And then seeing the need to take care of them, I created this a little altar. And so yeah, so I became a nurse later in life because I am a healer. I have a need to help people. I mean, I have
Yeah.
a literal need to help people.
Yes.
And it was just the biggest blessing in my life. And that was my third career. So,
That's
yeah.
awesome. It's so cool too because you are still being a nurse. And you're a spiritual nurse. You're healing people, not just spiritually, but you're giving them mental ideas. You're giving them emotional ideas. I mean, what you said something on Michael Jacobs about how they had defiled you on that statue of Jesus, and I think that was the one that took my breath away the most the last time we spoke. But to be able to turn around and be able to share these things and heal others, it has to feel really, really good. Tell us how that feels. Tell us how it actually feels when you get the feedback from people, when people are interested in your story. Roll around in that joy a little bit.
I have been able to help other victims that have talked to me privately, and they finally find somebody safe that they can work with, and they will ask me, is this normal? Is this normal? Because this is happening, and what's going on? And I can say, oh, I went through the same thing. It's completely normal. It's a good thing. You can try, you know, I can give them ideas of the
Right,
healing process
right.
where your alters get to know one another because there's amnestic walls through it. So
Yeah.
one way is to write a question with your dominant hand, then put the pen or pencil in your non-dominant hand and
Yes,
answer it
yes,
back.
yes. That's good. I've actually done that with clients, just expressing themselves because it accesses a different part of the brain. So that's a great, great idea. Great use of that. What does it feel like to get the beautiful comments? Like when you go to Michael Jacobs and he's got thousands of people, so it's a great place for an example. And it's just person after person after person just loving on you.
I have tears welling up in my eyes while you're talking. It's indescribable to be accepted for
Yeah.
who I am, good and bad, ugly, beautiful. It's the fact that what happened to me was when this all came back. We live in a small country town. Back then it was like 5,000 people. Everybody knows everybody. We have one grocery store. You go to get 3 groceries and you spend 2 hours there because you're talking to people. And I was rejected by my church, pushed out, and the church was the main one in town, and I've been rejected for 25 years. I'm shunned.
Yeah.
I have basically one friend here, and so all my friends are online that can accept the whole part of me. And to be heard, we did the book 25 years ago and it was rejected.
Right.
85% of the interviews I did, they were hostile and mocking me. I bore through them as best I could for the sake of my co-authors, but it was horrible. It was
Yeah.
just horrible. And
Yeah.
after a year, I said, I can't take this abuse anymore.
I'm glad you shared that because one of the things that kind of cracks me up is all these people that have just recently, in like the last year, discovered all of this stuff. Like me, I'm like, I guess last April was when it all started cracking open for me. But it's so funny because they're so impatient. They're like wanting to get stuff done. I'm like, can you imagine, like, not only on top of like the way we feel, you had all that abuse, then all the years to wait for all of us to wake up. It's got to be really, really validating. And it's like getting your equilibrium back. It's like everything was so far off, and now, oh, this is it, this is love, this is the way it should be. These are the people that really care about me, they really care about my story. And when you come out with something that's so wild, um you risk so many different responses. And so, I appreciate your patience in dealing with the people who have questions, or are testing your spirit, or I don't know, even just criticizing you for having some joy.
It's funny, as this great awakening has started to happen and people are new and they're complaining, I've been waiting 3 years. And I said, honey, child, I have been waiting for 55 years for this, and I never expected it to happen. When I was a kid in a dog cage, that a day like this would ever happen. It's just like, sit back and enjoy the ride. Don't
Yeah.
get all, if you can't handle the day-to-day stress, turn it off for a while. Get your head in another space, go ground, go walk in the forest, but have a little bit more patience.
You've had all the patience, and we are all catching up. And the nice thing is that this unveiling isn't just giving you equilibrium; it's giving all of us equilibrium. Once we go through the horror of finding out these horrendous things, then we can go into validating each other, and being there for each other in any way, online, in person, whatever. So the next one I just pulled up is the little pig. And what does it say? Schweinhund?
Schweinhund. Yeah, that's German for a little pig, basically.
Okay.
It's this was a child hunt depiction. They called me the little pig, and you can see that black pig lurking in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did was I took a regular coloring book picture and I transformed it into how I felt. You can see that my wrists and ankles had been bound
Oh,
by
wow. Yes.
those marks. So what they did was they would send we children out into the park that was owned by the Catholic mission in our area, and they'd set us loose in the night, and then they would hunt us down. Particularly, it was the one I remember the most was a Pan, Pan, Pan ritual, the god Pan.
Yeah.
And they sent us out, and so whoever found whom would, rape that child where they found them, and then we'd all be hauled into a central area in the park. They put us on carrying poles like you would see the Queen of Sheba lifted up on poles,
Mhm.
right? So they would hang us upside down and tie us to those poles and then carry us back to the basement level underneath the mission for the rest of the ritual. And I hated the child hunt because I knew ultimately I was going to get caught, and I just didn't run very far. I just would run and sit behind a tree and wait. What's the use of running barefoot and hurting your feet and everything when you're just going to get caught and the same thing's going to happen? You had to make it look like you made an effort to run and hide, but I didn't go far.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. And so uh they do more. So tell me this, because I remember reading this in Kathy O'Brien's book, because she has the story in there about Bush and Cheney chasing her and her daughter like this. What is it about them having to find you? Is there
It's a
some?
predator thing. It's just a predator thing. It's an ego boosting for some reason. They're the huntsman and you're the prey. They get off on it. I can't go into their mindset at all. You know,
Thank God.
yeah, yeah. But yes, I read that. I held off on reading everybody's stories till I got mine out. And then, so I have read that of Kathy O'Brien, and it made sense from what I know of those two from my
Yeah.
experience as well. And Cheney was always with Bush, just always. So, and you can see, I'm just going to put this little snippet in there. You can see they do not spare their own children, right? I've talked about Bush Sr. and Bush Jr. being in the same place. Well, we
Yes.
have another Cheney in the news right now.
Yes.
So you see a flip-flopping of personality and belief systems. You better believe she was victimized too.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and you can just see, you can just tell you didn't witness her being abused. You're just recognizing it. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Bloodline families program their children.
Yeah. And
So
and so I also noticed that you added a moon in there and some dark clouds. Um, Always at night, right? They do these?
unless they are on a huge, like 17,000 acre ranch where they have guards at all perimeters,
Got it.
darkness is the way they hide. Unless it's super isolated, they can do it during the day, but usually at night. And, you know, that makes them the bigger macho men.
Yeah.
Go figure, right?
Yeah. And so we're are the children that are the bloodline families like the Cheneys, are they also hunted in these things too? Or is it hard to
I could
say?
not say that definitely. I do
Okay.
not know what their
Okay.
programming or experiences have been, if they're worth something, because I was expendable.
Right.
So if a child's going to get hurt that's very valuable to them, they won't do something a certain way
Got
that
it.
would risk them. Whereas my experience as an expendable, anything could happen to me and it didn't matter.
Yeah. And so what do they do to you with your hands and your feet before you go out there?
Just the way they transported me was to have my hands and feet bound.
Okay. Okay. Wow. That's just nuts. And then they go back and they take you into the church again,
Well, they had a
or the
subterranean
mission.
level at this mission and
Uh-huh.
underground tunnels, and that's the history of it too. They built the tunnels so the Native Americans could come in through the tunnels and go into church without being ostracized by the rest of their tribe. I don't believe that story
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just know about the Vatican and the way it is, you know,
Right, the
and it's
tunnels.
all tunnels and undergrounds and horrors. And so when you're talking about a mission um, that was established, you know, however long ago it was, I just I I don't believe the narrative.
Right,
And
right.
it did have dungeon cells underneath it, literal cells where they put us in when we were supposed to be out of the way. I was petrified. I still have an aversion to Catholic priests. I can't be in their presence. I can't.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. What do you do? Because if I'm trying to think, if I had a huge church and all of the top people in the church, I found out were doing this. Um, like you either, to me, have two choices. You get rid of all of them, or you begin a new church. It's weird how they seem to be able to, like, these evil guys on top seem to be able to have their cake and eat it too, so to speak, which
Right.
has really just perpetuated the exact, legitimization of the way you're feeling about them, because it really is horrible what they've done to so many children.
Yeah.
I even saw like a video of the Pope that we have, I think now, slapping a lady because she pulled his arm or something. Just
Yeah, he was slapping at her because she grabbed his arm and he just started turned around and started slapping at her, and then his bodyguards pulled her away.
yeah.
But um yeah, he's bye bye.
Have
He's
you
bye bye.
have you had have you had any interaction with people as far away as the Vatican?
No,
Okay,
no, it was just the local.
just where you
Because
were.
again, I'm the expendable. I'm not the one being taught the rituals or being used as a spiritual conduit or anything like that, like some others have been.
Okay, got it. All right, so this is the next one.
So my father went by the name Dick, appropriately. Um, just had it's funny. Anyhow, I wrote this down. Dick the Rock Koha, bloody. What did I write there? Scary
Scary.
sun god. Okay, so this was again. It was just a picture of a sun in a coloring book, and then I made the colors and the rest of it. And if you remember what I said, I used the color orange a lot for trauma in my kindergarten drawings, colorings and stuff. So again, I came up this word Ra Koha, and I hadn't done research into. I don't know Egyptian lore,
Right.
and I don't know Kabbalah or however you pronounce it. Right? I didn't know. What was so interesting to me in my self discovery here was Ra, of course, was the sun god,
Yes.
and Koha is actually the name of a priest in ancient Judaism in the Kabbalah.
Wow.
And so this was just totally from the inside of me, and I found the validation much later. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And then,
so this is just picturing my father's personality, basically.
and isn't the sun like, at some level in Freemasons or whatever, isn't the sun like some representation for them being God or something?
Um, them being illuminated as God, yeah, and it does tie. Freemasonry is into the Egyptian gods, and so this title Ra, the sun god, yeah, their works are so they can ascend and be as gods on this earth, and it's all through works and it's all through deeds that they achieve. It's all ego centered, right? So yeah, they use the sun and its rays in what they do all the time.
And so you know how they have the Stairway of Heaven, the same kind of concept that was at your church, that you had when you were growing up, Jacob's Ladder or whatever.
Jacob's ladder, yeah.
Is that stolen from the Bible and like used for the Masons for their steps? And Are there only 33 steps, or does it just keep going on and on?
From what I've researched, uh, 33 steps are the first 33 steps, and it goes on and on, higher than the 33rd degree level Freemason. But they're using gematria magic as well in that, as far as the numerology of the 33. And this is all things that I've had to study and learn about, rather than this intrinsic knowledge of, what they do. So it's just all their symbolism and their belief system, in the drawings and in the gematria magic.
Right. And it's interesting that, even later in life, you automatically connected that with blood, because that seems to be the big trick is the blood.
Right.
The blood, the chaos, it's just nuts.
The
I'm
life is in the blood, and they are literally here to steal, kill, and destroy
yeah.
when you come down to it.
Well, and I
So
mean,
then this is another
steal our
coloring book.
bodies too.
Pardon?
To steal our bodies too.
Yes.
When you think about transhumanism and like what's, their desires going forward.
Right, exactly. And in Revelation it talks about the Antichrist sitting in the temple of God and declaring himself God. Well, we are the temples of God. And so it's not, in my belief, it's not necessarily a physical third temple in Jerusalem, but it's what they're doing to our bodies right now through the different methods that are real popular right now,
Yeah. Yep.
where they can do the nanoparticles and then the implants and the 5G technology, everything else. What better way for Satan to corrupt humanity
Yeah.
and declare himself God and creator rather than our mighty God?
Yeah, and I watched a Droid commercial yesterday, and it shows, it's about this phone, and the phone is attached to him at where his heart is, and he's sitting in this chair, and he's bound down, and they like put this like injection in him, and it shows it going through the blood, and how the DNA is there, and the DNA then becomes all mechanical, and there's an extra strand, and how you don't just upgrade your phone, upgrade you. And I was like, this is like predictive programming. I
Yes,
posted it on Twitter. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it when I saw it.
they're telling you what they're doing to you, and if you don't understand that they're telling you what they're doing to you, that's on you. You're stupid, you're chattel, you're sheeple, and too bad, so sad, you made the choice.
Yes.
And they laugh about it.
Yes. Yes. All right. Next one is the bat.
Fledermaus.
Fledermaus?
Fledermaus. Yeah. A lot of the words that I was coming up with from my littles were in German. And so how a memory comes back, you'll hear something like Fledermaus. Fledermaus, I'm like, what's a Fledermaus? you know, it, basically in German, that's a flying mouse, and it's a bat.
Oh yeah.
And so I found this bat picture, and of course the bat has blood coming out of his mouth. It's a blood sucking bat.
Yep. Lovely. All kinds of blood everywhere. And then let's look at this one.
And that's just one of my littles that is always sad, sick, and scared. And the color green because I'm feeling so sick. I spent the first 5 years of my life absolutely sick all the time. I was on antibiotics all the time. It destroyed my teeth. And so I was just a mess being little. So this is just one of the ways one of the littles expressed how they felt.
Yeah. And so, like, it's like scared is spelled wrong. and obviously you were old enough to spell it correctly, so you actually really go into that age as well as their viewpoint,
Yes.
and that's
And
what you don't do anymore.
no, it's all integrated.
It's
All
so
the
cool.
children were healed, and
You had an awesome, awesome, awesome therapist.
yes, he was awesome. At the time we were writing the book, Dale Griffiths helped him get in touch with other leaders in the field who, and he was willing to learn. And so they coached him on how to help me recover, and he did it.
That's awesome. And so I think this is a repeat of the one.
It's just another one
Oh,
that
okay.
kind
You
of
did do another one.
that just shows that there's debris in the middle of the pentagram and that they're burning the evidence.
Okay. And then here we go.
So I saw this picture in the coloring book of a diamond ring. And again, this rock Koha theme was going through my head at the, well, an altar was trying to get it out, that there was a ring of power, and the rock Koha was the reptilian style high priest that held the power.
Right.
Of course,
And
the
then
horror,
and the little swirlies on the inside, is that power?
yeah, power to control, power to mind
Okay.
control.
And then it looks like this goes into something else, like
Yeah, I made it into an
the
Ouroboros.
snake
Yeah, the
snake
snake
eating
eating its
itself.
tail,
Okay.
which is another one of their symbols.
And it's called a Urobos?
I pronounce it
Ouroboros?
Ouroboros.
Okay.
I
I
don't,
didn't
I
know
don't,
that.
I don't know exactly how to pronounce it correctly. I mean, I've probably looked it up a million times, but forgot. So
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. And then this one.
this is, you have to watch the doodles of people who have been through ritual abuse. And I was just doodling here and trying to remember a certain symbol, and the rectangle around that cross and then the hook end was the correct one. And it was so weird because when my father was 187 and we went into his trailer to find evidence, there was actually a carved box that had that symbol on the top of it. And he
Wow.
had saved all his parents' things. He had left their room like a shrine. Well, his mother, his stepfather had died long before that, but we found evidence. We found evidence in there because he left her room like a shrine. So
Wow. And so, this is really interesting to me because I look at this and the first thing I think of is, do you remember when Prince, the artist, changed his name to a symbol?
yes.
Doesn't it look like this?
Um,
I mean, it's not exactly the same, but very close.
yeah, symbolism will be their downfall. I don't even really know what it means. I might have looked it up at one time. But this is how my brain was trying to remember what I'm trying to get out. And I actually found, that carving in the lid of that box,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we gave evidence like that to Dale to keep,
To help him decipher.
yeah, to help him with his investigations. And we originally set out to prosecute my father, but they killed him, so he couldn't go before the courts. So spin programming, you'll see survivors doodle tornadoes all the time. And then I have tornadoes all the time. And it's part of this spin programming. And when I say spin programming, what they literally do is they'll hang you upside down from a tree by both feet and twist the rope and twist the rope and let you go and spin, 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 spin. Or Mangala, for instance, we had a tall, flat merry-go-round that was built out of pipes. It wasn't the kind you stand on, but we'd climb up and sit on those pipes with cross pipes on it and sit on top of that and spin. Well, what he did was he gave me phenobarbital and tied me face down in one of those portions of that merry-go-round and spun me and spun me and spun me and spun me and spun me. So when something's triggered in you, you automatically go into this massive spin in your brain where you can't catch a thought. It's like a roulette wheel spinning round and round in your brain, and it's to get you away from that trigger thought that you're not supposed to remember.
Wow.
It's real successful. I had what you call fragments rather than fully developed alters. And
Right.
what I saw them as was spinners. It was all these little girls, about 4 or 5 years old, standing on a hillside, putting their arms out like little children do and spinning till they fall over.
Yes, yeah.
And so they were all responsible for the spinning. So once I found them, it was real easy to integrate them, because who wants to spin and feel sick all the time? So it's like,
Right.
hey, let's let you go play rather than having this job to have to spin. And they're like, oh yay, we get to
They're like,
retire and
that sounds way
go
better.
be a kid, all together. So once I
Yeah.
did that, I didn't have the spin programming anymore.
How many personalities did they discover and integrate for you,
Oh gosh.
or approximately?
Yeah, well, the number that pops into my mind is 33,
Okay.
but I did create the counter system. So, it could double
Right.
from that.
And those were ones you did voluntarily to kind of,
Trick them. What they would do is they would call out little girl, for instance. Little girl was created at the age of 4, and they would call out little girl so they could torture her more. I didn't like that. Is so
I don't
I
blame you.
I created what I called the scrambler, like it was patterned after the carnival ride called the scrambler, where you have all these arms and swings and everything going
Yeah.
around, right? And so what I did was I hid all the little ones below that, and I would do a scramble, and they wouldn't quite be able to call up little girl. And when they did, it was an older child pretending to be a little girl out of the scrambler system. So
Wow.
they weren't hurting 4-year-old. They were hurting like 10-year-old who knew they were trying to hurt 4-year-old.
Yes.
So taking the pain instead of having that 4-year-old damaged anymore.
Wow. You were so smart. That's probably why you've healed so well. You had an intuition, probably because of Jesus or the Holy Spirit or something inside of you. It's awesome. And so, is there anything that are in these swirls that were relevant that you wanted to share?
It's just showing that for instance, the biggest tornado is basically looking like a normal daily life thing that you get to do.
Yeah.
And, they take that and they spin that away, and it interrupts your thoughts and being able to just relax and play. That's the one thing I'm still trying to learn how to play, to just
Oh,
relax and go out and play.
yeah.
And I do it, now I have grandchildren, I'm getting better at it. And, I did go play with my children, of course, but to feel relaxed. I was sitting with my grandbaby in my arms while she was sleeping yesterday and
Mm,
looking at her and how relaxed she was in my arms, just absolutely flaked out, relaxed, and I was talking to God saying, that's how I need to relax in you. And
Yes.
I'm just so controlling about environmental factors and trying to figure out my next move, and just my head just goes and goes and goes, and I just need to
Yeah.
chill in his arms and relax and
Yes.
not worry
Ooh.
about things. And that's one of the hardest things for me to do, is just let go and relax.
Yeah.
So
Yes, well, you grew up on eggshells, so I could see why that would be a challenge. I have faith that you will be flaky and relaxed like me.
I picture I'm stopping myself and I'm like, do the Nestea plunge, that old commercial
Yeah.
where the person spreads their arms out and falls backwards into a pool.
Yes, exactly. Uh,
I found this. I didn't know I did this. I forget what I do because it's all integrated. But remember that image of Dr. Green during the
yes.
programming. So
Yes.
this is an expansion of that diamond matrix where it's open. And I had to leave the codes out of this. There's a little bit up in the corner where it says
Yeah, right
3333,
there.
and because it could call out somebody else's altars too.
Oh, yeah, that's so smart. So smart. Okay, I'm going to
So,
pull up the old one too so people can see what she's talking about. This is what we're looking at here
right.
so that people can understand, what's going on.
So they would literally say, the the numbers to different areas of the numbers coordinate to different facets in the diamond, and there's amnestic walls between. And so you'd have to enter through what I call the portal doors where they hook together. And
Mhm.
that's where they need the access code to go into a particular area, like the ones around that central figurine
Mhm.
um, would be 1111, and you'd have to say that, and then the word sentence program that goes after that, where they're calling out the alpha little girl altar, and they have
Um,
to have the right code, and then they give you a personal code. And this is in the green mom speech. It's your birth order, your birth year, and then 3 letters of the Greek alphabet depending on your program types. They
yeah.
have to use that too, and then they'll use the quadruple digits in the phrase to get in and access, like the alpha altar, or the numbers that are 3, whoever is in that area of the matrix, etc.
Wow. And so this is so fascinating to me because I think about my process of learning about angel numbers and synchronicities and symbols and signs. And I think of repeating numbers as being angel numbers. And so this is yet probably another thing that they have distorted and twisted. But before you get going, Jen Eason just put on the she just put on the chat. She said, "Come to Cumberland Island with me, where I learned to play again." And
Oh,
Cumberland Island is off of, I think, the coast of Georgia. I'm not sure though, but it's where JFK Jr. got married, and Jen just loves that place. And I had Jen on the show last week, and everyone just loved everything that she had to say. So that's quite an invitation you just got.
how sweet. Yes,
Yeah.
now I have to have financial miracles. But
Oh, well, I'm sure they
yeah.
will come. There's probably people right here that would love to help you. As a matter of fact, I have mileage, so if you decide you want to go do that, I will buy your ticket.
Oh, how sweet. Thank you.
Yeah. So, okay. Hi, Jen, and hi to everyone else. And then let me see if there's anything else in here that somebody had to say that we should talk about. Um, Great extension type of examination, I think is what she's trying to say. God bless you, Miss Back. You are one strong, strong, amazing woman. Let's see what else we have here. The horror of what these children go through brings me to my knees. My heart cries out for justice and complete healing for all. The depth of evil existence has taken my breath away. That's the way I describe it too. It's like this feeling where like a piece of your innocence leaves you when you hear this stuff.
Yes, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. But I saw somebody post on our Rumble interview together with Michael,
Mhm.
and he was talking about now we need to focus on all the positive and you know dwelling on this stuff is all negative, and we should be in the positive and in these you know vibrations and things like that. And I challenged him. I said, are you saying you would like to see a balance of me talking about the negative and the positive, which I think we do,
Yeah.
but are you saying you can't handle stories like this at all? And I told him, I and others like Cisco Wheeler and Kathy O'Brien, we told you all 25, 30 years ago that this was going on and nobody would hear it.
Yeah.
And think of the millions of lives lost because everybody buried their head in the sand like ostriches and
Beautiful.
pretended it doesn't happen, especially the church that's the most equipped
Yes.
to actually do spiritual warfare and take these places down head on. And they're not there, they're not present. Now there's, like you say, the wilderness church, those of us who aren't in the four walls and everything that get it and that are doing the spiritual work to combat what's going on.
Hmm.
But so I was just asking him, I said, this has to be told. And if you've heard it already, you don't have to watch it, you
Yeah.
know.
No, that's so true. And
I don't want to re-traumatize people, but if you know about it, that's cool. Go for the positive and combat it.
yeah, and it is. I also think there's a piece of humanity in general. There's a piece of like, for some reason, it gives other people comfort to hear a story that's worse than theirs. And I don't know if that falls under sensationalism or what it falls under, but people are very interested in this right now, and it could be as simple as they just need to understand where it fits in the whole puzzle of their own life, and that is that we are all connected, and that we all have this underbelly that we have to fix before we can go forward. And
Mm,
God's going to put us on our knees one way or the other.
right.
You might as well look at it now, and then try to participate in the healing.
And recognize too that it isn't limited to those of us who have had this very deep one-on-one trauma. Right now, their biggest goals for Operation Mockingbird are very successful globally in the media.
Very
You
good. Very
are
good.
being programmed.
Very
People
good.
are brainwashed. It's evident. It's obvious. It's
Yes.
horrible. It's horrifying to me to see
Yes.
what's gone on.
And it just repeats and repeats and repeats, and that's the only way to get any information into your brain is through the theta wave state, and that either comes through meditation or repetition or hypnosis. It's you have to be in that theta wave state, and so how do you get there? Or you have to have repetition. So it seems as though they think that repetition works best, but there I have had new eyes, Cheryl. Maybe we could go through movies sometime, because I'm sure you have a ton of insights from different movie situations. But there's so much predictive programming or program driving or psychic driving, like you had done to you, only much more subtle, not under you're eating popcorn and not being tortured, but it's still infiltrating the brain.
And the worst, I think, besides the news, I think the news, mainstream media is the worst right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But the other is music, and that they change the frequency too.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
a lot of the stuff, I mean, they're not hiding it anymore. They do outright satanic videos, and you are being satanically ritually abused
Yeah.
listening to their music. And
Yes.
you are being programmed because they change the frequency to have that run in you. So for instance, hate cops, hate all cops, right? And that's
Right.
over and over and over again. And that puts a fear in you of police. And yes, there are bad police officers. I'm not going to say that everybody's, but I know a whole lot of good ones. I grew
Right.
one myself, it's just their, I'm not going to use that term, their best dream. I could say it another way. Coming true. I mean, I think of my step grandfather celebrating in his grave because they talked about how pervasive Mockingbird would be eventually, but
Right.
it's far exceeded now
What
their
they thought.
dreams.
Oh gosh, that just upsets me so much. But no, you're right. And yeah, it would be really fun to go through some stuff. I recently had a vision. I shouldn't say too recently, but within the last 6 months, I had a vision of these 5 black cubes, and I was talking to Jesse about it. And I have started to see that there are black cubes in all these movies. So the Transformer, the Star Trek, the Tesseract, and all of the Marvel comics with all the superheroes, and definitely listening to Jesse talk about the black cube at Mecca and all that. It's just it's all being programmed into us through all these different kinds of movies, and how we react is going to be predictable because we've been programmed.
Yeah,
And
it becomes acceptable. I just thought about Mecca, and I believe, don't they walk in a counterclockwise motion around it?
yeah,
I
it's
which
one or the other, but either way, it's, yeah, it's like a trance.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah,
when we see these, they put it in the movies. So when we see them in public, we're not going to think twice. We're not going to think twice that the 9/11 memorial is an upside down black cube. you know, it's it's all out there. We just don't even see it because it's common. So we're immune
yeah.
to seeing what's actually in front of us.
And as far as I know, the black cube has to do with both what the Freemasons and Saturn,
Saturn
which is
worship.
Satan, which is there's some satanic something about each one of the corners or something like that, or an element, and I forgot, but it's just fascinating. And so, what's going on in this picture?
In this picture, somehow I got away from the abuser. You can see the stakes in the ground by the water, and I got away. He's holding up the chains like I broke the chains, and these are electric eels coming around me to protect me, not hurt me, but surrounding me to protect me from the abuser, and they would zap him. I think it was a dream I had.
Right, right.
And a lot of memories first come forward as you think it's a dream.
Right, right. Well, it's so interesting too that you're thinking as a child that an electric eel is safer than a man,
Oh yeah, definitely.
and
Knowing the
they
character of
indeed
electric
were.
eels now is like, wow.
Yeah, you're like, electric eels or these crazy assholes.
I'll take the electric eel.
I'll take the eels. Give me 3 of them.
Yeah.
My gosh. Okay, so this is at a these type of things happened at lakes or
I
ocean.
grew up on the beach.
Oh,
There
okay, that's
were
right.
private beach areas too,
Okay, got
and they
it.
always have guards around the perimeters to keep you out.
Right,
They don't look like guards in uniforms, but they do. And then
right.
I forgot that I did this drawing. I don't know why it wasn't in with the rest of them, but this is typical of you and Cameron's psychic driving at Allen Memorial Institute. They put a helmet on you and do the psychic driving where they play the things over and over and over and over again. You've had this helmet strapped onto you and you can't breathe because the strap is tight and you're sobbing and you want to get free, but you have to listen to it.
Man, they just use almost every sense possible.
This was just showing my therapist from a coloring book what the bad things were. My
Oh,
father loved both these things. He always had these things around. us the scythe. He would threaten us by putting it around our neck and just say, one tug and I can cut your head off. And of course, the sickle, he loved the sickle. He would go out in our yard and find snakes just so he could hack them apart. And they weren't necessarily dangerous snakes or anything like that. So, yeah, he's just,
Sociopathic or
oh,
psychopathic
yeah.
or whatever. Oh my gosh, I love all the writing around this one.
Yeah, it can get kind of confusing, and this just comes out of me. So I wrote it in this pattern. So you start with the well to hell is very deep, swirling, whirling, swallowing the twirling children down to the demon pit to tear you into pieces, to eat you and spit you round. And then you go to the next one where your pieces and parts and bloody, gory guts fling. Let's see, I'm trying to read
Fling
sideways
and
here.
flung through the spinning chaos, whirlpool of terror, screams, and agony, too much to bear,
Yeah.
too much to hold in one. So pieces are flung into the mire and the muck like greasy, grimy gopher guts. You're so cute. And then abhorrent pieces swirl and whirl in the well of hell, lost in the vortex, ever spinning down, or don't touch the yuck, can never put back to one.
And that's how you feel when you're trying to recover, because your whole life was built on lies. What you remember of your life is
Right.
all lies. It was all a construct. And so when you're recovering, you're finding all these pieces of you. You
Right.
just you get sucked down into this despair. Am I ever going to be able to heal? And there were times of absolute despair where you don't think you're ever going to be able to put the pieces back together.
Yeah, and then that you survive that is just amazing. And it's so interesting to me that the micro always reflects the macro, and how one of the things that I think that you guys are doing is allowing for people to realize not your family's lies, but the whole world's lies, and how they too are finding themselves in the well of hell, so to speak, swirling around like, I don't know which way is up. Can I trust NASA? Can I trust, the CIA? Can I trust the FBI? Like, who can we trust here? And they don't know where to find the pieces. And you guys are giving them the answers, at least on where not to find the pieces, very clearly.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so, was there anything in particular in this one other than that concept that you just shared,
Vor-
as far as
vor-
the picture?
Vortexes and whirlpools are another doodle, just like the tornadoes are. It's kind of like as above, so below too, but you feel just like being sucked down into hell. It's just, you feel like you're drowning with
Yeah,
all the trauma and the horror. And
yeah,
I understand people watching this might feel the same way, but there is a God, and he does equip us to come to him and give it to him and let him sort the pieces out and give us the answers to what
yeah.
we're searching for.
For anything, as long as we begin searching for it, it will come. But like you said, there's times we have to have more patience than what we want. But it is always, I believe, for our own good. All right, and here's the next one.
So again, some of my programming, I mean, this got very specific. It just started out with a doodle and I actually figured out the system of the amnestic walls that they built just by starting to doodle. And it's like a dreidel top,
Uh huh.
but like the in the upper my upper right corner looking at the image, it's I had this thing in my head all the time. People who live in glass houses shouldn't throw rocks. And it goes back to that diamond and the facets, and don't disturb anything, don't throw rocks and shatter something, because it'll all shatter. And so they built these walls, and a trigger would literally cause the pin up in the middle of it to pop up. So there's a trigger, and that program would pull out and it would spin, so you wouldn't remember the
Right.
source of the trigger, and spin you
Right.
away from that thought. And we're off to see the wonderful Wizard of Oz. They use the Wizard of Oz in programming. So you spin away to Oz, so you go to a totally different place that looks much better from what you just got triggered with.
Right. And then what about the goat?
The goat of Mendes, that's Baphomet.
Okay. And then these are just you putting it together in all the different geometric shapes, but they're all having to do with the matrix and the codes and how you viewed it.
Right.
Very interesting. Isn't the mind just phenomenal?
Mind-boggling. Yeah. And this too, it's the same concept. Like, um, if a suicide program would kick in, for instance, um, the trigger would be, oh gosh, I can't read it. That the number A, it would be a phrase, and then it would go to B and C and D, and it was in a chain of um, that you should just end it all,
Yeah, like
because
number one says must be crazy. Number two, just like Dick. Number three, monster mom for kids. Number four, better off dead for everyone. Spin it. Spins down to hell.
yeah. So all right, so somebody would call me crazy. Go ahead, call me crazy. I've been called crazy a long time now. But when somebody did, it would set off these this 4-phrase chain.
Got it.
And the ultimate conclusion would be, okay, if somebody had called me crazy, and I was driving somewhere, then I was thinking about that hurt when they called me crazy, and this would kick in. It would be like the bridges were calling my name to drive off the bridge, and the
Right.
light poles were calling to me to crash into them.
Right.
And you're hurting your kids just like your father hurt you guys, so you might as well just be out of their lives, so they don't have the pain of having a crazy parent.
Right.
And it just, then it spins, and those thoughts go in that sequence through your head and it just becomes this enormous pressure, like, just do it, just do it.
Wow. And how did you keep yourself from killing yourself?
Okay, this is my sense of humor. I'd probably screw it up and break my neck. I'd be paralyzed from the neck down, and people would be taking care of me, and they could abuse me because I couldn't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, so basically your survival instincts.
Right, right. It's
Which is
somehow
so
I'd screw it
ironic.
up somehow and make it worse for myself. And I wouldn't do that to my children. My love for my children, I just would not do that to them.
Right, right. Well, good for you.
Thank
That's
you.
thank
And this sketch is also from the book, and it got separated from the other ones too. I do this. My stuff is chaotic in the way I store it, but
Mhm.
that's a survival mechanism too. So if somebody came in my house and went for stealing all my information, that they wouldn't find it in one place.
Oh, got
As it makes it difficult on myself, but
it.
it also makes it difficult, for the
Yeah,
ones that come in and take things.
right.
So I sketched this place that I remembered. Still Pond in Maryland. It has an underground base next to it. And I sketched it all out. And I had, of course, in my mind, never been anywhere outside of my little town in California, certainly not Maryland. and I sketched it out, and Dale and Ted were able to find this exact place
Wow.
in their investigation. And when they were driving up, it was okay. So this is a bay below a hillside, and that has that radio tower with a red blinking light on it, so airplanes don't hit it. When they were driving on the top, it would look like just an open field with this radio tower. All of a sudden, they got surrounded by black SUVs, just came out of the woods from that empty
Whoa.
area, and guns pulled on them. And what are you doing
No.
here? What are you doing here? And everything. They were able to snap like one picture, I think, before they were surrounded, and they were escorted off. And it just looked like there were no signs that would indicate anything was there.
Right.
There was no trespassing, no military installation, anything. And they were just surrounded and told to turn around and leave at
Wow.
gunpoint.
So they basically own that whole like bay or cove
The
area.
Bay
And
Cove,
then
the
beyond
hill
it,
up top was over the top of the underground base.
okay. Yeah.
And so,
Wow. And so
yeah,
you don't have any memory of how you got there or traveling there, but you know you were there.
I know I was there, and there was a particular incident that happened. I flew helicopters for the CIA when I was 16,
What?
17 in there. And they had trained me in ground school when I was doing the breeding stuff for the family, the ages of 12 to 15. And they created this helicopter pilot alter and taught me to fly a Little Bird helicopter and a Black Hawk.
What?
And they had me drug running across the Mexican border. They called it pizzas back then, and the pizzas were actually a pizza box size bundle of drugs, and they were in a white vinyl kind of paper,
Envelope?
whatever you want to call it, with hemp twine over it. I don't know what I was flying exactly, but I knew I'd fly under the radar into Mexico
By
with
yourself?
a gunner beside me. But
Okay.
yeah,
Wow.
I was a helicopter pilot. And
So do you think you could still fly a helicopter?
everybody asked me that. And what they did was they programmed me to be hysterical of the thought of ever being in a helicopter. For when I was a newlywed, my husband wanted to take a helicopter tour, and I literally, and this is so unlike me, fell on the ground in hysterics that I couldn't do it, that I couldn't get into a helicopter.
Wow.
And so they kept me, because you can have situational memories come back. If you're in the situation, that
Right.
alter can kick in. Now, since I've integrated, I don't know. I did find myself on a trip down to the Science Museum here with one of my children's classes. They had a
Right.
mock-up Apache helicopter
Yes.
cockpit where the children could sit in. They have the controls there. There's just no outer shell.
Yes.
And we were standing next to it, and a child climbed up in the seat. I wonder what's this for? And all this technical information came streaming out of my mouth. And it was like I took a step back in and watched me telling this child, this is for this, this is for this is what you do.
Whoa.
And so
So it's somewhere.
yeah.
Wow. That's what I always wanted. I learned how to fly an airplane, but I always wanted to do helicopters, but they were $1,000 an hour opposed to $300 an hour or whatever it was. So
Right. And so what happened was my sister was trained as a soldier. Her programming broke, and she led escapees out of the underground, and they're running around in a Jeep in this cove area trying to outrun the people out
oh,
looking for them.
in this
Yeah, right at this
picture.
place.
Oh, wow.
And so they sent me up in the helicopter to spot them, and I did. And so I intercepted them on a beach, and my sister is driving the Jeep, and I land the helicopter, and I get out with my rifle pointed at her, and I don't know who she is. This is an escapee. I'm holding my rifle. Well, she recognizes me and calls me Cheryl. Cheryl, it's me. And and that didn't faze me. I was programmed against responding to Cheryl. And so we had worked at the same summer camp together where we used Indian names.
Right.
And when she said my Indian name, I froze into a trance, and spin programming kicked in, and I dropped my rifle, and she got back in the Jeep and
And
took off.
wow.
And they always kept us apart. And so that was a coincidental meeting where it shows that the programming can be broken through.
Right. If the person knows the person well enough, or, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. And it is so interesting how they always are near, the one thing is near another. And I'm so suspicious now. Like, even in the little town I live in, they're building a huge church, and it's across the street from a school, and I'm like, "Oh gosh, I hope there's no tunnels from one to the other." And the old me would never have thought something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. They like to build Freemasonic temples near schools too. Just, yeah. And I'm trying to show people how bad it was hurting at me at the time for them to make comments. It felt like when I had my hysterectomy at 33, like,
Oh, when
well,
somebody makes a bad comment about the
yeah,
you
it's
coming.
like, can't you see I'm already bleeding, and you're just cutting me even more. I mean, it physically guts you too. Well, it did back then. It
All right, so
physically.
let's see if I can see what these say. It's not that bad. Quit whining. Be tough. It's in the past. So what?
Buck
My
up, it's not that bad. My
buck
guts
up. It's
have
not
been,
that bad. Yeah, a
yeah.
simple procedure. You're in and out and on your feet in no time. Yeah. And so I love that. I love that you also express where you are to people, regardless of where it is. And back then you hadn't really kind of recovered, and you can't prepare for it. I have a friend who, she was a stripper, and she married this incredible man, and he took her out of that world, and she wrote a book about it, and it's called, I think, Never Broken, or I don't know, something about being broken. And she wasn't prepared for, she wanted to share her story, but she wasn't prepared for all of the return, the people that would want the help, the people that didn't know what to do, like other people in her situation. And I don't know that she ever got there, or didn't, because I haven't talked to her in a really long time. But I just think that's so fascinating, because you kind of had this roll out in several different, first you came out, then you did your book, and then that wasn't going well, and then now you've got like this second coming out right now, and you're getting a totally different reception.
Right in the middle of that, my health went really downhill, and I died and got sent back. And so like I said, after a year, I took enough abuse. I just couldn't do it anymore. And then my health suffered, and my children became my priority. When I made it back from the near death experience, they didn't expect me to live. They sent me home to die. And I bought myself a wheelchair because I couldn't even stand for 30 seconds without collapsing. And I bought myself a wheelchair, and over the course of a year, I kept on doing for my kids and kept on getting stronger and stronger and stronger.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. And so now you're in a different situation. How long has it been where you're being more embraced and what's the word? I don't know,
Accepted,
just more free.
listened to, accepted
Yeah.
since
There
Trump.
you go. You got all the words. Just list them off for me.
Yeah, since Trump.
Oh, so 2016?
Yeah, yeah. Since um the he it really started. the Great Awakening. It really did. When he came down those escalators, um, I didn't trust him, to be honest. I didn't
Yeah.
trust him because, okay, I had to research him and make sure he wasn't in the Bohemian Grove Club like most of the other presidents. I couldn't find any records of him being in any Masonic order. Then I found out that during his lifetime, he'd been an FBI informant and hung around the perpetrators because he was getting intel, because he didn't drink. So
Right.
he wasn't partying or anything like that. He was around them all the time. And yes, we have all the pictorial evidence to.
Right.
And then he was using their hand signals, which
Well,
also
that's
freaked me.
yeah, that's what I thought too. Like somebody had said that they had seen a picture of him and Sean Hannity doing, some sort of Masonic handshake.
You know, what we've come to learn is they have used everything against them that they do. They
Okay.
have they're reversing their hand signals to use against them. They're using their codes against them. They're using their gematria against them to set them up and take them down. And, we've heard the phrase from a certain letter of the alphabet that symbolism will be their downfall. Their need for symbolism, their need for the numbers to show when it's a,
Yeah.
foxtrot, foxtrot, that happens in society, um, that they're using it all against them.
So when was what was the first thing? I know you said, going down the escalator, but when was the first thing where you actually were like, "Oh my gosh, this feels really good." Like things the kids are being acknowledged, the women are being acknowledged, but like what was that one thing that really made you see, I think this is going to start opening it up?
That was through the number 17, translate to the
Okay.
alphabet,
Yep.
closures.
Okay.
And then it went like, what better way to reverse their number, symbol, etc. magic than to use it against them and reverse it?
Yeah. And so
Brilliant.
then
That
you
was
started getting
brilliant.
excited about that. And then
Yeah.
when was the what was the thing that happened that brought you back into the public eye?
It was realizing that this was really happening, that that I was created for such a time as this, and I need to start talking again. And so, when I did my first interview with Victorous Libertas, I was still publicly questioning, President Trump. I wasn't 100. I voted for him, of course, but I did not
You weren't
know.
sure. Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's hard to be 100% sure at any time. I'm always a big proponent of people earning your trust. And I also believe, just like God likes us to test and make sure that it's really Him, I think we should test others. And the people being tested shouldn't mind so much. You
No,
know, it's part of all of us feeling safe.
right. I live in Arizona. Look at what's happening here in
I know.
Arizona.
I know.
Power to the people, yes. But look at the backlash. And that's the other thing that really keyed me into him too, was the horrors that he's been through 24/7, 365 of the attacks,
The
just demonic
hatred
attacks.
is off the
Hmm.
charts. Yeah, that in
But when
itself.
Satan rages against something, I'm going like, oh, that must be a good something then.
Okay, which team is Satan on? Okay, I'm gonna be on the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome. Well, thank you so much again for sharing your recovery and hope and helping us validate the lies so that we can all start standing on truth.
you're so welcome. I just adore you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We all adore you. It's a mutual admiration club.
Yay.
Yay. So, yay, everyone. Have a great evening, everybody. We'll talk soon. Bye.